Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. We got some exciting news today. I'm not going to stay on here too long. I just wanted to come on and live stream real quick. I'm going to post a video about it, doing pretty much the same thing, but it looks like it's official. I just posted an article on Mopar Insiders. It sounds like Carlos Tavares is gone. He will step down probably as soon as tomorrow. According to Bloomberg, there was a Bloomberg article that was posted probably about 45 minutes ago. I was actually doing my review video for the Dodge Hornet that I had, but I'm not going to sign in and all this stuff. But anyways, yeah, he quits and hands over the interim committee. So he is done. He is stepping down. He is gone. So that should be some big news for everybody out there who's been upset with how the company has been running. Yeah, this is good news. The stock has fallen big time over the last, 7 months. We've seen it drop almost as much as almost over 50%. The shareholders aren't happy. This Dare Forward 2030 program that they have, this whole plan isn't working. And it's not just not working for North America, it's not working for Europe as well. We've seen a pushback with electric vehicles in both the US and Europe, mainly because they're so damn expensive, like super expensive, and people can't afford it. We've seen countries in Europe say that they're not going to follow the EU's mandates for EVs. So even though he's making all these cuts, nobody's buying cars. Here in the US, we have seen huge incentives on Ram pickups, and then people are still buying them. They're still sitting on lots. We still have thousands of 2023 Dodge Chargers and Challengers sitting on lots. And for how big the demand of the Hemi cars were, you can still go buy one that's brand new sitting on a lot. And it's wrecked the value for the rest of the people who thought these were going to be collector's cars. And the reason why is because, one, the cars are too damn expensive. Two, is the fact that who wants to buy something from a company that the stock is just tanking? I mean, you cut tons of your workforce. The first month of this year, he cut 2% of the North American workforce by laying off everybody at Auburn Hills that was an engineer. Is a Hemi inbound now? I doubt it. The problem with the Hemi, everybody keeps talking about, there's a Hemi coming, we sent stuff to Mexico. Right now, as far as I know, there is not a new Hemi in the works. Could they take and shoehorn something in? Possibly, but it's going to take a lot of work. According to my friends that work at Windsor, you would actually have to redesign the strut towers and stuff in the new Daytona or the new Charger, because the new inline engine is actually narrower, but it's longer. The engine mounts don't meet up as like they did, where they never really took the investment like that's in certain vehicles. So like that's why you're not going to see the inline six in the new Grand Cherokee when it launches at the supposedly for 2026. But they could bring something back. As for what I know and what I've heard and what's open to the public, Mickey Bly, I've said this several times, Mickey Bly, who's head of propulsion systems for Stellantis, has come out and said that they're working on other variants of the Hurricane 6. So we're going to see Cat X, which is that new drag pack only package. That's 1,500 horsepower, but that's going to be for a race, like NHRA sanction, like racing only. But he did mention that they're working on a more street-based version of the Hurricane, and what I've heard is it's going to be like close to 700 horsepower, so it should replace the Hellcat pretty close to it. The only problem is it's probably going to have to be iron block based and stuff, but people want the V8 back, so I don't doubt that they're going to have a new V8 eventually, but it's not going to happen within the next at least 3-4 years. Could they bring something back? Yeah, they still have the tooling. They're still actually building 5.7s and 6.4s right now, because you can go to a Mopar direct connection dealer and buy those crate engines. They haven't stopped building them. They're building them very like low demand right now, but they have tons of 5.7s. And the thing is, the 5.7 is a proven engine. You can put boost to it. It's a great motor. And what people don't realize is it doesn't cost Stellantis much to build those because the tooling's paid off and everything. It's only a fraction of what they actually, charge you for it. So the problem is they're going to have to go in. It will take probably, if they were going to put a Hemi car together, it would probably take them, I don't know, probably 18 months to go through and redesign the car. But the strut towers are too close in. They have to move them out. So they would have to work it out. I would say, I've heard everybody complain about the Charger Daytona. I've spent a lot of time being around the Daytona. Have I driven it yet? No. Have I sat in it? Yes, several times. Have I, had a chance to go around the car? Yes, and it looks fantastic. It is a great-looking car. Yeah, it's gimmicky. It's got the Fratsonic chambered exhaust, which that's cool in its own right because people think it's just a speaker. It's not a speaker. It works like a pipe organ. It's a system of pipes. So when you actually put your hands on the car, it vibrates. It vibrates the car. But it's still an electric vehicle. Yes, Stellantis will need to build electric vehicles still. The Charger Daytona has its place. And like for CARB states like California and that are going to be gung-ho on not listening to what the upcoming Trump administration has in planned, for eliminating certain EPA stuff, the Daytona will fit in perfect for those markets. But will we see a Hemi right off the bat? No. The question is who's going to take over the company? And I didn't write this on Mopar Insiders because Mopar Insiders, to me, even though we talk about rumors and stuff, I want to make sure that my sources are 100% true. But I'll tell you that I mentioned it the other night during my live stream. I have 3 guys that work within the company that I'm good friends with outside of the company. I live in Detroit. I know a lot of people that work for Stellantis. And they've been looking for a CEO replacement for a while. And about a month and a half ago, they sat down and talked with somebody that everybody's familiar with. Not Tim Kuniskis. I'll even say who it is, because I'll post a video later. It might be Mike Manley. Mike Manley might come back to the company. It sounds kind of crazy, but when Mike Manley has, how can I say it? He's really well known in the company as a positive note. People like him. The thing is with Manley is he's been with Chrysler. He was with Chrysler since the 90s. He's lived through the Daimler Chrysler era. He was in the late 90s. He worked. He was head of the European sales for a while. He ended up working his way up. He was head of. He's done head of Asian sales. He was Jeep CEO. He was Ram CEO. He shook things up. And Sergio Marchionne is the one who put him in a position, and he was on FCA's the actual director board. So you have the Europeans and stuff. Him and Tim Kuniskis were both on there with Reed Bigland and a couple other people. He knows how the North American and European markets work. If you don't know what happened to him, when Stellantis formed, he kind of stepped down as CEO and had a different position in the company. It was kind of like being the COO of North America, but it wasn't. And about 8 months in, he left the company, and he went to run AutoNation. Now, right now, if anybody follows dealer stuff, AutoNation is having a hard time right now, mainly because how the market is. They're starting to close dealers and stuff, and what my sources have told me was Mike Manley was looking at closing a bunch of Stellantis stores, and he went to Auburn Hills to talk to some people, and apparently John Elkann was there. John Elkann's the chairman, and his family owns the most shares in Stellantis. And apparently, John Elkann was talking to him. Mind you, I've had this come to me from a couple sources. I don't know. I can't confirm it's 100% true. because these sources are really reliable, but I don't want to say something that like, oh yeah, he's coming for sure, and he doesn't show. They don't pick him. But apparently they talked to him. And with AutoNation having all of its issues, I could see Manley coming back. And I guarantee if Manley comes back, within 16, 17 months, a year and a half, he could have this company turned around. He knows how the markets operate. He would probably go into the same thing that Sergio Marchionne did, where North America does its own thing. Yeah, we share technology and platforms and stuff, but Europe does their own thing. And South America right now is doing great. South America market is actually probably Stellantis' most, best-selling, not best-selling, how can I say it, strongest market share continent in the world right now. Fiat is dominating down there. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize this, is Ram and Jeep. Their second biggest markets aren't Canada. Their second biggest markets are Brazil. In Brazil, like down there, Ram is celebrating like their 15th anniversary as a standalone brand. They're doing a whole bunch of stuff. They're a premium brand down there. Like a Ram 1500 cost almost $100,000 down there, and people are buying them. Like even though they're a poor country, there's tons of agricultural farmers and stuff that make tons of money, and all they drive is Ram trucks. We've seen the new Rampage down there. They're building stuff specific for that market because they're dominating in the pickup truck, the premium. Actually, against premium brands, Ram is like the second best-selling premium brand in general. I'm talking about Maseratis, Porsches, all that. Ram is considered a premium brand down there, and they dominate. Fiat has some of the best-selling cars down there. They control the truck market. They have 3 of the best-selling trucks down there. They have the Strada, the Toro, and then the new Titano, which is actually a Chinese truck badged as a Fiat, but nonetheless, it's a mid-sized truck. They're building more products down there. So that market's fine. But somebody needs to come in and fix these North American market and the European market badly, and Manley would be the perfect person to do it. Now, mind you, there has been talk about Antonio Filosa coming in. Now, mind you, he just became the COO of North America. He's the one who led the Fiat brand and Jeep success down in Brazil and South America. They brought him in as Jeep CEO. He started doing things, but it seems like he had his hands behind his back, like tied behind his back. Like he started cutting prices on stuff. But I think he's probably one of the candidates. He just got the position of COO. It wouldn't be a bad thing if he became the new CEO. Do I see it happening? No. I think the board wants him to fix what's going on in North America. But they need somebody that knows both worldwide markets. They need Europe, especially, and North America. And Manley would be the one. If Manley comes back, I guarantee people like Tim Kuniskis will come back. And people think Tim Kuniskis is out of the picture. Tim retired, and when I was at the day of the Woodward Dream Cruise, I was at the Dodge exhibit. I was there seeing Jay Leno drive the turbine car in. And if you go on Mopar Insiders and look at some of my photos, you'll see Mark Trossel, who's head of Mopar and Dodge Design, back there, talking to Tim Kuniskis. Tim Kuniskis was there with his Demon. Like, he's still a hardcore Mopar guy. There's been all this talk about Pontiac and stuff coming back. They're not going to do it right now. There's no way. Tim grew up as a Pontiac person, but he's a Mopar guy through and through. He's got a 71 Dodge Challenger that's one of his babies. He's a total car guy. I think Tavares was the reason why he left. I said hi to him while I was there. I've met Tim several times, enough to say hi and stuff, and talk to him like during media events and stuff, but I've never been like a friend of his. But he's very friendly with everybody there, and he's still a diehard Mopar guy. So if Manley comes back, I guarantee somebody like Kuniskis could come back. So the problem is are we going to get a CEO? If it's not Manley, if it's not Filosa, are we going to get a CEO that comes in and lets the brand CEOs do what they need to do to bring their brands back? There can't be any more cuts. Stellantis has an abundance of cash. Even though their stocks are falling, they've been cutting left and right because Tavares has cut Stupid things. He's cut things like, for example, Sterling Heights Assembly Plant. The UAW workers have a podcast, and they were talking about how they couldn't bring their own, like, certain cars to work because they had cut down on security at the plant, and people were stealing their Chargers and Challengers and 300s and Rams and Durangos out of the lot. Every shift there was somebody getting their car stolen. Like, how stupid is that? They were cutting back on cutting grass at the plants to save money. Within the first year, Tavares got in trouble with the Italian union and saying, hey, I'm going to cut down. They have a massive plant over there, the Metaphora plant. He wanted to cut bathrooms down. He was like, oh, we can cut costs by shutting half the bathrooms down. Okay, you got like a 4 million square foot plant. People have to walk away from their stations to go to the bathroom, and you're going to make them walk up to the other side of the plant? The unions blew up about it. Tavares has been poison for these unions. The UAW hates his guts. The Italian unions hate his guts. So whoever comes in is going to have to do a lot of self-healing with these unions and the cutbacks. They're going to have to hire engineers because we obviously see that these cutbacks, hiring engineers or having engineers work on projects that are across the globe. Like, for example, you cut your North American engineers, your software engineers and stuff, and you're launching electric vehicles and you're having all these issues. You still have some, but they're all young kids. If you go to Auburn Hills, the headquarters, I bet you the average engineer there is probably in their early 30s, if not late 20s. They cut them out and they move these kids in who are knowledgeable about stuff but don't understand like what goes on in an automaker. And instead they're bringing people in from Brazil and Morocco and India to fix the problems, or doing it over the computer. And you got to have people on site to fix these cars. They had a huge problem with Ram trucks, and it wasn't Shap's fault. They spent, I heard what they said on the Shap podcast was they spent like something like, I want to say like crazy amounts of money. I'm just throwing it out there. I could be wrong, but I think it was like over $10 million shipping Ram trucks to the Auburn Hills campus, which is only a few miles away, and other places that they could fix them because of all these electrical issues with this new Atlantis architecture, this electrical architecture that they have. So, yeah, it's just stupid stuff. And they need a CEO that can come in and manage both sides. You have to have a CEO that will let the brand CEOs do what they need to do to, be successful. Give them deadlines. Yeah, that 10 years. Yeah, we're going to do 10 years. If you can't make your brand successful by 10 years, then sorry, gone. But as for those of you guys, like, the problem is you're going to have to patch up the stuff with the UAW. You're going to have to build stuff here. That's just how it is. This whole Trump market, Trump has said he's going to start taxing stuff. And what I don't understand is when you have these expensive trucks, cost has to come down on them. No one wants to buy a $90,000 pickup anymore. You look at the Ford Maverick. Huge success. Starts out at like $24,000, goes up to $45,000. We need products like that. Products that people can afford. Stellantis has one product under $30,000 after destination charges. And that's the 2025 Jeep Compass Sport 4x4. You can get like 3 options on it. You can get a pedal kit. You can get all-weather mats and a graphics package. That's it. So, like, I got a Hornet right out in my driveway right now. I was actually, when I found out about this, I was actually doing the review on that. The Hornet has good intentions, and you're going to hear more about that, but it's far short of what it should be. And Dodge and people need to understand that Dodge isn't just a performance brand. They need mainstream vehicles to succeed. All the brands need to go back to their, former glory. And that's what somebody that comes into this brand, this company needs to find out. And, like, not just find out, but execute. Interest rates are still high, unfortunately, but probably within the next year they're going to start coming down. And when people have cash in hand, when you start seeing manufacturing jobs go up and people have cash in hand, people want to spend that cash. Houses are a big thing. But what's the second biggest purchase somebody makes in their lifetime? A car. So, I mean, look at, people were pissed off that the Hemis weren't, that they were discontinuing them, but there's several thousand Hemi cars still sitting on lots. Chargers, Challengers, and 300s. And nobody's buying them. And that's because the demand for them went down because people don't want to buy from a company that's just firing everybody and making cutbacks and stuff like that. So it's going to be hard. Needs to get rid of the bone anchors of Fiat. So, believe it or not, Fiat actually is very successful. Fiat brand, even though it's not successful in Italy, their biggest market is Brazil, South America. They have a huge market share down there. Huge. You can't get rid of the Fiat brand. I'm sorry. Maybe here in North America that makes sense. I don't know why they keep Alfa Romeo and Fiat here. If you really have a product that you really want to be here in the market, that in the North American market, that is a Fiat or Alfa Romeo, rebadge them as something else. They did that with the Hornet, with it's obviously a Tonale. But I think they need to focus on, bringing stuff to market here that is made for this market. So, Maserati is doing poorly. Yeah, Maserati. Yeah, they're over 100-year-old brand, but you know what? If they can't do what they need to do is they need to get rid of brands like DS, Lancia. Lancia is down to one car. I mean, they've been kind of like it was kind of neat when Fiat Chrysler did the whole thing where they were mirroring the cars for Chrysler and Lancia. That was kind of cool, but if you look at the actual brands, like Chrysler kind of fits in Lancia with how they're blue-collar luxury brands, but their products need to be totally different. And it's not going to work out doing that again. So I would see Lancia, DS, for sure. You can get rid of those brands. They consider Abarth its own brand, but to me, it's like an SRT brand. I don't understand why they do that. The commercial stuff for Fiat does super successful in Europe. The Ducato is one of the best-selling commercial vehicles in all of Europe. So, yeah, getting rid of the Fiat brand doesn't make any sense. Alfa Romeo, on the other hand, has a rich history, but they're spending money left and right to bring products that not many people want. Like, the Giulia is a great car, but it's a great car for Europe. I'm 6'1", and you'll hear about me talking about the Hornet like this. That car is built for Europeans. I am too tall for the Hornet. And I can see why people don't like buying those things, because I'm cramped. I'm a fat guy. I'm like 350 pounds, okay? I'm fat. But the problem is I can fit in a Durango, which is an E-segment vehicle, no problem. Getting into a Compass, yeah, it's tight, but I can do it. The Hornet, when getting in with headroom and stuff, is terrible. My head was pushed into this, like, if you can't lower the seat. I don't know if that's a European thing. We're here in North America, all of our seats lower down. You can't do it with the Hornet. So, like, for me, most Americans are, like, guys-wise, are either 5'10" to 6'3", and it's crammed. My son is 5'8", and he's 15 years old, and he could barely sit in the back of the car. So they have to build cars for the market here. They can't just build cars for global. It doesn't work unless it's really a global vehicle. Now, like, for example, my wife has a Jeep Renegade, okay? It's on the same platform, technically, as the Alfa Romeo Tonale and the Dodge Hornet. But my wife's Renegade, even though it was designed in Italy, they kind of had it as a global vehicle, and they made it super tall inside. I don't have a center or a center console pushing into my leg. I am super comfortable. I actually love to drive the Renegade. I think the Renegade was an awesome car. Everybody complains that, oh yeah, it's not a true Jeep. Doesn't matter. They need vehicles like that. And the Renegade is an awesome vehicle. That's why I bought it. I bought one that has removable roof panels. It's got the 1.3-liter turbo, the same engine that's sitting out there in that Hornet. Gets good gas mileage. has all-wheel drive capability, does everything I want it to do for my wife, and I bought it used with like, what, 20,000 miles on it? And I bought it for under $20,000. Brand new, that car was it's a limited, so it was 28,000. The only thing it doesn't have on it, option-wise, is the LED headlights and taillights. It's just got normal ones. But that car works great because you can sit in it. My father-in-law is skinny, but he's 6'4". He bought a Renegade after they were looking at buying a Jeep Compass. And I told him, I said, dude, try the Renegade. Because my buddy had one, and I drove it a bunch of times. He had a stick shift one, and it was fun. I told him, I said, go look and test drive one, because he wanted to have something for my mother-in-law. And there's tons of room in it. He couldn't believe it. He could sit there and still have a ton of headroom in it. And he loves driving it. He actually drives it more than her, which is funny because she's got like all this like peace signs and stuff on it and all that. And we always joke about it because he looks totally out of place driving it. But he loves driving that thing. So they can build vehicles that are small, that fit the American market, and for people that are American-sized. But they need to look at, honestly, cutting some of these brands that aren't going to make it. Like, obviously, if you Lancia, yeah, it has a historical reference for Italy and stuff. It doesn't really sell good. Up until last year, it only sold in Italy, and it only sold one vehicle. Alfa Romeo has been, how can I say, a dead spot for Stellantis and FCA. The funny part about Alfa Romeo is, yeah, they're sold globally, but Jeep, their European sales, okay, they have one vehicle that we don't have here called the Avenger. It's based on a really small platform. It's actually smaller than the Renegade. That one vehicle is so successful in Europe, it outsells the Alfa Romeo brand globally. One Jeep product outsells that whole Alfa Romeo brand. I'm not saying that the Giulia and Stelvio aren't good products. I've driven both. I had a Stelvio Quadrifoglio as a test vehicle, and it broke down. But it was fun while it worked. But it had electrical issues, and they had to come tow it. That Ferrari engine was phenomenal in it. Carbon disc brakes suck on Woodward, on busy traffic. But it was a lot of fun. I don't like, you're going to hear me talk about this in the Hornet video. The Hornet is more an Alfa Romeo, and everybody knows this. And it goes beyond just styling and stuff. It's about how it functions. Steering wheel controls, radio controls, stuff that Americans like a certain way that vehicle doesn't have. If they took the Hornet, changed a few things, brought it to, let's say, build it at Brampton with the new Compass, okay? And lowered the price in it and made it a little taller, I could see that thing being successful. The problem is European products really don't sell well here. People want their SUVs, people want their pickups, but they want American stuff. Americans want American stuff. Oh, let's see here. What's Tim say? I was chatting with a Maserati West Region area manager, and he said there's a lot of consideration going on with Alfa Romeo in the U.S. He said the future's uncertain for the U.S. brands. That's true. And Alfa Romeo is actually looking at bringing one of their smallest vehicle, which is based on the Avenger, the Junior, here in certain markets like LA and that, because of the whole EV thing. That would be fine, but Fiat has shown us with the 500e that necessarily doesn't work. The Fiat 500e is the second worst selling vehicle right now in North America. It's the second worst selling vehicle in the U.S. right now. And the problem is you got a small vehicle with only 149 miles of range. It's a two-door, and it costs $32,000. $32,000 will go buy you a fully loaded four-door, small compact Trax from Chevrolet with a lot more features. And you have a gas engine that's small and gets great gas mileage. What people don't realize is at least what the Europeans don't realize is we don't care about here. They have mass transit. They don't really use a car like we do here in North America. Their reason for a car is more like an appliance. Here it's about traveling and adventure, and that's why they sell the Jeep so good over there, is because they sell the European market on why we use cars here. It's about, hey, I'm going to go cross country and go to see my in-laws, or I'm going to go, take the family on a vacation. There, they have mass transits everywhere. We don't have mass transit here. So they need small cars that, because their oil prices are so high and they have these huge carbon emission standards and stuff over there. Here it's different. And these cars don't really produce a lot of pollution. I read an article, I don't mean to rant, but I read an article about 5 years ago. I think it was in Popular Mechanics. And they said that in 1968, every 5 years, a car was getting better with emissions, like 50% better with emissions. So if you look at a 1968 Charger, you move it up, and then you look at a 1973. That's when all emission stuff started, kicking in. Lower displacement engines, lower compression. You had unleaded fuel. Then you had the lean burn systems. Like I have a 1979 Chrysler 300 in my garage right now that has a lean burn system in it. That thing only produces 190 horsepower, but it's supposed to be good for your emissions. And then we have the 80s. We had small, like 4-cylinder engines. In the 2000 or late 90s, we started getting back in the V8s and stuff. Since then, we started getting lower and lower emissions. There was a thing back a while ago saying that if they continued with the whole every 5 years, 50% emissions were lowering and lowering, that by 2045 we could be driving cars that were gas powered, putting them in our garage, and there would be so many scrubbers and stuff on the exhaust, and not really reckoning emission or reckoning horsepower, that we could run them in our garage and not die. You can check it out. It's on a Popular Mechanics article. It's pretty interesting. But nonetheless, I think this is good news. I would love to see Mike Manley come back and be with the company. I think Manley knows what the hell he's doing. It'll be very interesting to see how the company not only reacts with releasing this news, because I'm sure the stock prices will go up as soon as they announce that Carlos Tavares is gone. I'm sure tomorrow it's going to start high. So Jeep and Ram can carry the weight for Stellantis to see Chrysler. Well, here's the thing. Chrysler, I'm good friends with Frank Rhodes Jr., who's the great-grandson of Walter P. Chrysler. And Frank has been on this mission to, save the Chrysler brand. And a lot of people thought, he wanted to buy the Chrysler brand. And he had a lot of people coming out and saying, hey, we'll support you if you buy the brand. He doesn't want to run the company. What he wanted was Stellantis, Carlos Tavares come out and said, hey, we're going to sell off brands that aren't successful. Well, he wanted them to see, how much they were actually worth. Stellantis has not produced a report, unless it was Maserati, for how much brands have lost. We can see when sales are down, but how much did a brand actually lose? So he wanted a value for Chrysler and Dodge. Not so much Jeep and Ram, because even if you were to separate Chrysler and Dodge, Jeep and Ram could go with Stellantis, and Chrysler and Dodge could have their own thing. Dodge had, forget Ram, forget the Dodge Ram. Dodge had their own lineup of trucks. They had the Adventurer. I mean, look right here. Here's a Dodge Adventurer pickup, right, in the 70s. It wasn't always Dodge Ram. You could have tons of product. Chrysler has tons of historical names. The problem is they invested a lot of money in product and never launched anything for Chrysler. And the only thing I can say about what's bad about FCA and Sergio Marchionne, I think Sergio Marchionne was a great person who saved the company, had a lot of good insights, but one thing I did not like is how he changed the brands. Meaning, Chrysler was always the blue-collar luxury brand. It went against Buick. It went against Mercury. That's kind of how they were. It wasn't a Cadillac fighter. It wasn't a Lincoln fighter. They had the Imperial for that. Imperial was its own sub-brand for a while. But Even when they had Chrysler Imperials, it was that car. It wasn't like a whole lineup of cars, okay? Chrysler was known to be the luxury car for everybody. And if you look back in 2007 when there was 8 vehicles in the lineup, Chrysler had what? An upscale Durango, an upscale Grand Caravan. Everything was more of an upscale version. The Sebring, upscale version of, the Stratus or the Dodge Avenger. It was always more upscale. That's the blue-collar luxury. Instead, they decided back in 2009 that they were going to become this mainstream brand, and Dodge was going to separate from Ram, or Dodge was its mainstream brand. Yeah, Dodge had its performance arm, they had its pickups, but it was just like Chevrolet and Ford. The problem is when you separate brands and kind of lose their identity over a while, you get what you get now. You get a brand like Chrysler, which has been struggling with one vehicle. And honestly, the Chrysler Pacifica, I will go toe-to-toe with anybody that say that's not a good product. It is a very good product. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It's good for everything, but not great for on everything. Compared to a sport utility vehicle, the Pacifica is way more useful. The problem is you're buying a minivan, and just like station wagons in the past, minivans have that soccer mom motif hanging over it, and it's like nobody wants it because it's a minivan. But yet people still buy them up left and right because why? It's functional. So you can have a luxury minivan. You can have, they've shown it with the Pinnacle. But you also need a cheaper version. What people don't understand is Dodge in 2020, the last year that the Dodge Journey and the Dodge Grand Caravan were out, those two models made up over 56% of the sales for that brand. Not the Charger, not the Challenger, the Journey and the Durango. Journey and the Grand Caravan. And why is that? They were affordable. They weren't the greatest. They were cheap. You got inside of them, it was kind of crap, but it was cheap. And they were affordable. And guess what? My dad has a 2012 Journey. As long as you change the stupid oil on it, it has a Pentastar engine. He's got 180,000 miles in it. It still runs great. So I don't know why people complain about it. But that's what the kind of products that people need right now. You look at Chevrolet right now. That Chevy Trax. Now, my cousin sells Chevrolet products, okay? Their best-selling vehicle right now is the Trax. Yeah, it's built in Korea, but it's stylish. It actually looks pretty good. It doesn't come standard with all-wheel drive. You can't get an all-wheel drive model at all. And the reason why is you want an all-wheel drive model, you step up to a Trailblazer. But the Trax is good-looking. It starts out at $23,000, so it's affordable. A fully loaded one, which you get actually tons of equipment in, under $30,000. That's why they're selling them. He has been selling more Trax than anything on the lot. Blazers, yeah, they're popular. Equinoxes, not so much, because everybody wants the stupid Trax because it's affordable. People can't afford, with this economy right now, they can't afford these expensive vehicles. Stellantis has none of that. Nobody wants a $32,000 electric car, where most people that, let's say you're a single person, you live in an apartment building, where are you going to charge this stupid thing? Unless your apartment comes with an outside charger, you're not going to be able to charge it. I have that Hornet outside. It's a plug-in, right? I don't have a charging system at my house. If I wanted to go charge that, I would have to drive it somewhere, leave it, and to get 35 miles of electric range on it, I'd have to charge it with a 220 outlet for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I think it is. 2 hours and 35 minutes. So if you have a small gas engine, you could go long distances and it's affordable. I have no problem with that 1.3 that's in my wife's Renegade. It's not balls to the wall. It does have turbo lag, but it's got 180 horsepower, and that's fine for her. She's a lead foot to begin with, and that thing has never disappointed her. And compared to my Dodge Durango RT that I have the 5.7 Hemi in it with 360 horsepower. That thing's got half the power, exactly half the power. That thing gets 28 miles per gallon on the highway, about 23 in the city with all-wheel drive. My Durango gets anywhere from 25 on the highway to a whopping 14 in the city. And I live in Metro Detroit, so I'm always in city traffic. So I have no problem with cars like that, but I don't think people understand, like, or the automaker understands, like, people want affordable cars. That's why the Maverick is selling like crazy, because it's an affordable truck. And you can garage it. You can't put a F-150 in your garage unless you have a huge garage. I could even put my Ram 1500 in my garage. It was too tall. So, I hope this means Dodge will make a comeback. Dodge has stuff in the plans, and that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, so the Hemi's discontinued after 2025 in the Durango, right? The Durango is going to continue on for 2 more years with the Pentastar V6, and the Pentastar V6 is actually a really good engine. You got 300 horsepower on tap. I had a 2018 Durango GT, and it was great. I actually liked that setup better than my RT because when I drove on the highway with it, I was getting almost 28 miles a gallon. That's at 75 with the cruise control set. I was getting 28 miles a gallon with that Pentastar GT Durango. My Hemi, yeah, I can get about 23 maybe if I'm cruising lightly. But whoever does like 55 to get those highway like MPGs? No one ever drives. That's what they base it on, is 55 miles an hour. When you see 25 miles per gallon, that's based at 55. Nobody ever drives that. So, but Dodge has plans. They're going to continue. Now, the Hornet is staying for sure. It's staying up until at least 2026, as far as I know. The Charger's coming out. It's going to have the 4-door. There's possibly another SUV coming, from what I hear. I don't know if it's true or not. There's rumors going around that could be coming. Something to sit between the Durango and the Hornet. People want SUVs. It would make sense. The Journey was that kind of vehicle. It was a D-segment vehicle. But I would think that would be more sporty this next time around. But they got to... The thing is, you have to build something that's affordable. That Hornet that's sitting out there is $54,000. I can go buy a Ram 1500 Warlock for that price. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential with the Dodge brand. Down in Mexico, they have Chinese built products, and they're selling like crazy. The Journey down there, that's still a D segment, but it's a 5-passenger instead of the 7-passenger SUV like we had here. That's shown to be a huge success down there. They showed off that Dodge Attitude. I don't know if you guys seen what the Dodge Attitude is. I'm sure you have if you follow Mopar Insiders, because I've talked about it quite a bit. The Dodge Attitude is this thing right here. It's a Chinese built. It's a GAC Trumpchi sedan, but it's a mid-size sedan that's kind of like sized right between a Civic and an Accord. And it's kind of like what a Dodge Avenger would be now. But it starts out at $23,000 US and goes up to about $35,000. Front-wheel drive only, 1.5 liter turbo, and it's not bad looking. I mean, yeah, it kind of looks Chinese, but they did a really good job with it. It's not a bad looking car, and that's the kind of stuff Dodge needs. The Dart was okay, but the problem is even FCA was putting, like, what people don't understand too is the Chrysler 200 and the Dodge Dart were both pretty successful cars. If you look at their sales numbers, if you look at the Chrysler 200 sales numbers from 2020 or 2015, it had a record amount of sales when it debuted. The problem was Chrysler put in FCA put in all of these features. They had all-wheel drive optional, had a V6, it could park itself, had all this technology in it. But what model did they sell most of? Touring. Base model touring cars. The cheapest trim level. They sold more touring models and touring Ls than anything else. Yeah, there was quite a few 200Ss and there was 200Cs, but the touring was the best-selling vehicle. People want the cheap stuff. You spend all this money on development and add more features to it, it's going to cost more for developing. That's why it's a failure when people are buying only the base models. If you have the Dodge Hornet, or not Dodge Hornet, I'm sorry, the Dodge Dart, same thing. Had state-of-the-art technology. It was a nice-looking car, but it was rushed to market, had lots of build quality issues. The problem with the Hornet is yeah, there's a lot of issues with them, but it's not a bad vehicle, but it's not the vehicle for North America. If it was taller, more affordable, it's great. The powertrain, I'm going to tell you what, that Hornet is probably one of the smoothest driving on rough roads, and I'll show you in the video. The city I live in, which is right off of Woodward, has terrible roads. And that thing has 20-inch wheels, and it glides over them no problem. You don't feel a bouncy mode like compared to like a Compass. I will tell you that they did a really good job with the tuning of the suspension on that thing. Powertrain, that 1.3 with electric motors, dude, that is phenomenal. My wife's, like I said, my wife's Renegade has a 1.3 with, no electric motors, and it's got turbo lag. Those electric motors cancel it out. Even if it was just a hybrid, not a plug-in, and it lowered the cost of it, it would be a lot better. That e-motor setup makes the vehicle so much more fun to drive. Those are the positive things. The negative things are pricing and the controls. Like I said, I'll get more into it, but like you have Alfa Romeo controls. It doesn't have a Dodge steering wheel, so you don't have radio controls. The radio is one of the hardest things to kind of navigate in the Hornet. And the pricing, like I said, I can go buy a Ram 1500 Warlock. A brand new Ram 1500 Warlock, $55,000 for a Ram 1500 Warlock. I could buy a full-size pickup with the new Hurricane Inline 6 for the same price that I can get this fully loaded Hornet RT. Does that make sense? That a C-segment vehicle compared to a full-size truck? No, it doesn't. The Hornets the Attitude's actually a pretty nice car. So many better options than at that price. Camry, Accord, and Legacy. Well, that's true, but if they designed it here and actually attacked that market again, the problem was all the big three left the car market, except for Dodge and Chrysler, which had obviously the 300 and Charger and Challenger, but those were their own kind of things. Chevy had the Malibu up until last year, and you look at like Cadillac, they've completely gutted their car segments for SUVs, and they're all bland. They all look the same. It looks like you're buying the same exact SUV, you're just going up in size. But there's a reason why Accords and Camrys sell a lot. The Camry looks like a vacuum cleaner to me because it's got all those big scoops and stuff. Not any different than this. Look at this Attitude. It's got huge scoops on it. But if you build a car that's reliable and dependable, most of those people who buy Camrys and Accords buy them as appliances. My dad right now, and not only does he have that Journey, but his daily driver to work is a 2021 Honda Accord EX, and he loves the thing. It's got a 1.5 liter turbo, it's front wheel drive. We live in Michigan, so he deals with snow with it. But it's got over 113,000 miles. He gets really good gas mileage with it, and it's dependable. He's never had really any big issues with it at all. That's why those cars succeed, because people want to keep going back. There's car enthusiasts like me and like some of you, and there's people who want appliances. People that don't care, like, hey, I want the cheapest thing, or people that want work trucks, like diehard people that, hey, I'm going to work on a farm, or I work, hauling stuff. I don't need a 14-inch stereo. I don't need all that crap. That's the kind of vehicles that they need to realize that people want right now. And they need to build those. All Detroit dealers are still pretending it's 2022. That is true. There are some dealers that are doing really good. Like, for example, I went over to Suburban Chrysler in Troy. They still have a ton of vehicles on lots. One thing I've noticed, though, is, like, I've gone to Gowling. That's where I bought my my Renegade for my wife. The Gowling is pretty good about pricing. The thing is like a lot of the dealerships around here don't have addendums to them, which are good. But what people don't understand around here is that most of the pricing that they put forward is employee pricing, because everybody can, like, most people work for the auto manufacturers. Where, like, I don't work for an auto manufacturer, but I can get friends and family discount, which helps. But Detroit is usually the most cheap or affordable place to buy a new car from the big three. the problem is like even with incentives on it right now, people still can't afford them. Everybody's getting laid off from the automakers around here. The economy kind of sucks in Detroit. So I mean, I don't necessarily blame some dealers, but if you're really looking for a good dealer, I'll tell you, like from my experience, I grew up in a little town. Well, it's not little, but it's like 30,000 people up at the very bottom tip of Lake Huron, called Port Huron. We had Blue Water Chrysler up there. They were pretty good. That's who I bought my Durango off of. My 300C I bought off of St. Clair Chrysler in St. Clair, Michigan. That is a small dealer. It's family owned. They're not a huge volume dealer, and you get not only great customer service, but you also get like they don't try to upcharge you on anything. That's the kind of stuff that these dealers need to do anymore. There's all these hidden fees and stuff. There's certain dealers I will go to because I know how they are. Unless there's a vehicle like my wife's Renegade was used and I had done all the research on it, so I knew exactly what I was going to buy. So I obviously I wanted that one that they had, so I had to go to that dealer. But other than that, I look for small mom and pop dealers. They're the ones that want to work with you. They're more kicked back. These big volume dealers, they used to be like, hey, we got 2,300 vehicles on the lot. But if you go look at all 2,300 vehicles, they're all the same spec. They're just different colors. It's all about volume there. You go to a small mom and pop dealer, you're more likely to get a better deal. You can talk to them. And for service-wise, they're way better. So, the party's over, Carlos. Yeah, it is. $75K for half ton ain't gonna cut it. That's the truth, because I bought my 2019 Ram 1500 Laramie Sport. It was fully loaded. The only two options they didn't have was the power running boards and the trailer brake controller, and I had those added. And out the door, that truck stickered for $64,000. If I was to spec that truck today, only 5 years now later, that truck would cost me $76,000 to $78,000. So over almost $10,000 to $12,000 more. So if you put the rebates that are on that truck right now, it basically brings it back to the 2019 prices. It's still stupid. And even then, I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Because I'm buying a truck that's this expensive. To date, that's still the most expensive I've ever paid for a vehicle. I'm never going to pay $90,000 for a freaking SUV or a truck. There's no way. Gowling is really bad about that back when I was looking at Julia. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the dealer. I'm friends with Ted Barrett. Yeah, the Barrett family is actually really good. Kaywood's actually a really good dealer. My family has bought tons of vehicles from them. My uncle has bought 3 Ridgelines from them, a Pilot, a bunch of Elements they used as company vehicles. My dad bought his Honda Accord from them. So they're really good. Cutting bathrooms and lawn care, legit stupid. It is stupid. But that's the kind of stuff that he did to cut all these costs, and it's really bad for the company. Dad bought an F-150 V8 for, $35,000. He refused to replace. He checked out a new one, and they were $70K. Yeah. See, and the thing is, like, Ford, it's not just, like, Ram that has bad, like, high prices right now. Ford does, too. Ram and Ford are about on par. GM trucks right now are a little bit cheaper, especially if you're looking at heavy duties. Heavy duty trucks, GM trucks are actually cheaper. You get more bang for your buck with GM trucks. Not necessarily that they're the best, but if you're looking at actual heavy duty trucks, Ford is by far the priciest for heavy duties. Ram is right there, but GM trucks are a little bit cheaper, and they need to fix that. More people would, like, if they had great packages, like, for example, if people are looking at one of the most overlooked vehicles right now is the Ram 1500 Warlock. Okay, what people don't understand about people that want a Rebel, okay, you're going to be paying almost, by the time you get one, it's about $70,000 for a Rebel. If you don't want all the bells and whistles, and mind you, that's just a base Rebel. If you don't want all the bells and whistles, you can go get a Warlock pickup. Now, mind you, it's based on the Tradesman, but you get the same seats that are in the built to serve editions. So they're like the same kind of seats that they're cloth, but they're the same kind of seats that are on also in the Ram 1500 Sport in Canada. You get the same suspension, same tires as the Rebel. You get a different grille. But because it's a 2025, you also get LED headlights, now standard. Unfortunately, all the Ram trucks, I don't know why Stellantis was cutting back on stupid stuff. Like, if you look at all the new 2025 Ram 1500 pickups, up until you get a limited truck, they all, even the Laramie trucks, which used to come with LED taillights, they come with halogen taillights now. But that's the same on the Warlock. And you get the inline 6, the same engine that's in the Rebel, but you get it for 55 or 56, like 285, I think it is. And then with rebates right now, you can get it down to like $50,000 for a Rebel, or not Rebel, but a Warlock pickup compared to a Rebel. You're not missing out on much. The thing is, also, they don't have crappy screens in them anymore. The 2025 Ram 1500 Warlock actually comes with the 8.4-inch screen. So you do have a nice Uconnect screen. It's the same as what you get in what you got last year in the base Rebel. So a lot of people don't realize that. But still, $55,000 for a freaking, basically a work truck model is nuts. It's nuts. Now it's gone. Is Stellantis still going to have their... Yeah, they'll still have their EV incentives. So, as what I heard is, right now is the Wagoneer S is ready to launch. They should have started not delivering them, but shipping them out. I think they're out of containment now. I'll have to check, but I'm pretty sure that they're out of containment. The Chargers are still in containment. They were supposed to be done. They wanted to be done by yesterday, the end of November. From what I hear, they need another software update, and there's certain ones that need shock changes. Something was wrong with the shocks, but I think it was on the Scat Pack models. They have like the adjustable, like a dampening shocks, and they wanted to change some of those out. But they've literally built like probably a couple thousand of them. They're sitting in Detroit and Windsor right now. I'm sure you guys seen OC Motivators like post about, there's pictures there and how shocking it was. I drive by it every day. There's a huge lot, and it's right at the Mack Avenue plant. There, you can see them right from the road. There's tons of them, but they're just sitting there waiting to go to dealers. And right now, they were only building like 42 models a day of the new Charger. They're up to 100, so they're ramping up production slowly, but they're trying to get everything right. So the problem is when you fire all your engineers and you have an all new electrical architecture and all this in a car that's completely new from the ground up, and you're outsourcing your stuff to Morocco and Brazil, it's hard to get all this stuff done. It just is. So I don't know, but I'm sure that the EV incentives are there. And the funny thing is, if you go on Mopar Insiders, I talked about it there. Let me go back down here real quick. I'll show you. I wrote an article the other day about 0% incentives on the Wagoneer S, as you can see here. And they were supposed to be good up until tomorrow, but I guarantee they're going to extend it because they're trying their damnedest to get people to buy these things. So if you buy a Dodge Charger Daytona, you don't get any rebates on it, but you can get 0% for 72 months. So if you figure it out, it saves you about, I think it's like, so depending on the model, I think if you get a Scat Pack, it'll save you close to like $17,000 or $18,000 over the long haul from interest. So consider that your rebate. But if you go and price yourself into a Dodge, like a 2023 RT, for example, and right now, I think interest rates, I put it on here, I thought. Interest rates right now for a 2023 Dodge Charger are roughly, and this is nationwide, are 5.9 APR for 72 months. So it's actually cheaper right now if you go buy a Dodge Charger Daytona RT in the long run than it is the 2023 Dodge Charger. The only problem is we know how EVs lose their value. So it'll be very interesting to see how these cars can hold their value. Now, another thing that they're doing is they're doing like a loyalty program for returning lessees or leasees, and you can get $1,000 on that, but obviously you're leasing it. But the weird thing is with the Biden EV incentives right now, if the EV is built here in the U.S., you get a certain amount of savings, but because these cars are built in Canada, you don't get the full $7,500 back unless you lease it. So in total, if you lease the car, you can get $8,500 in savings. But mind you, that's in a tax incentive, like a rebate. So you don't get that like on the hood of the car. You get that back through your taxes. So a lot of people don't understand that. With Carlos out, will Stellantis follow what FCA did? Like have? Yeah, if you watch the beginning of this video, which when it's done, that's what I said. I think my big thing was I believe what I heard from sources was that they were in talks with Mike Manley. I guess Mike Manley went to Auburn Hills to talk about, because he's the CEO of AutoNation. Mike Manley, obviously was the Jeep CEO for a while and Ram CEO. He's run a bunch of different parts of the company. I don't know if it's 100% true, but I heard this story from 3 different people that work within the company, like hired up, and apparently he was there talking with them, and they talked to him about a CEO position. And if Manley can come in, he would probably run it just like FCA, where North America's ran as its own thing, Europe's ran as its own thing. South America kind of runs underneath the North America, but South America is fine right now. Out of all the markets, South America is the only one that's actually fine. Some that they don't have to touch it. It's doing great. So, but yeah, that's the thing that I heard. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens the next day. I guarantee you we'll hear something tomorrow about Tavares leaving. Sorry, I'm going to take a drink. But I guarantee we're going to hear something about Tavares leaving. But I don't think we're going to hear who's going to take over the company just yet. If they do something like internally, I'll be very shocked. I think they need to do something kind of like polarizing to kind of shake up the company and build excitement again. If they build excitement, the stock prices will go up. Yeah, Manley would be a great choice. He's my pick for sure. And like I said, he's had his hands in a little bit of everything in the company. So hopefully they can get him. I would love to see him come back. I think like I said earlier, I think within 16, 17 months, like a year and a half, I think he could get the company rolling again, back to how it was. He was head of Asian sales. He was head of European sales, actually UK sales. He was head of European sales for Chrysler. He ran the Jeep brand. He was on the board of directors. He ran Ram. He's done everything. And I seriously believe if Manley comes back, people like Kuniskis will come back and run the brands again. I think the problem is if the Stellantis board will back Manley 110% and allow Manley to spend a little bit of money and shake things up, meaning like not allow, like basically if let's say Kuniskis comes back, if Manley or whoever takes the place of this new CEO in that chair allows the CEOs to do what they need to do, I think it'll be fine. I find it hilarious that this company that was in great shape when it merged with PSA is in such bad shape now, to the point where your most senior CEO for the brands, the core Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram brands, is Christine Fuel, who joined the company in 2021, and she hasn't done anything. She was there at the launch of the 300C, the final last call for the 300. She introduced an autism package for the Pacifica, and really, if you listen to her talk, she doesn't sound like she knows what the heck she's doing. I mean, she's a nice lady. I met her at the reveal of the 300C, but I would like to see some people in there that have backbone with the brand. I was kind of upset to see like Jim Morrison go. Obviously Kuniskis was a super key part of the company. I've heard rumors that like everybody was getting ready to leave, jump ship. Like Ralph Gilles was getting ready to jump. I've heard a whole bunch of stuff. So hopefully whoever comes in will make things exciting again and bring people back. You can't penny pinch a company like this. You just can't. Remember Bob Lutz had that whole book about the penny pinchers in, like the bean counters. Remember? Car people versus the bean counters? And that's the kind of stuff that they're going through right now. Carlos Tavares is a bean counter. And I'll show you something really funny. Since you guys are all on here, I'll show you something kind of funny. If you go to YouTube, there's a Carlos Tavares video on YouTube. And he jokes about being... Let's see. Don't know. He jokes about being a bean counter. To the point where... hold on here. Carlos Tavares... Samurai. They said this guy tells him he's an automotive samurai. And he laughs about it. And the whole point about being an automotive samurai, like he doesn't know what it means, just goes to show that he's like... But meaning an automotive samurai is he's cutting out the fat of everything. Like everything. So listen to this.
Is that description accurate? A samurai of the car industry? I'm not even sure I know what that means.
Neither do I, by the way, Jason, neither do I. I don't know. I don't know if it is appropriate. What I would say is that I'm certainly totally passionate about this industry. I've been working in the automotive industry for 42 years now. So indeed, I'm passionate about the industry. I'm absolutely passionate about cars and product and technology. I've been, as a point of reference, being racing cars in motorsports for more than 41 years also.
He's proud of technology in the auto industry, and that was because he was one of these big people who, first of all, he hated electric vehicles because they cost too much to produce. But yet he was full gung-ho because he wants to save the planet from his grandchildren. First of all, for a guy who got $30 million last year, he's got the most messed up teeth I've ever seen in my life. But that's the problem. He kept meeting these goals because he was cutting people's jobs. He's cutting the fat out of everything. If he stayed until 2026, there'd be nothing left in the company. And then he'd just walk away. He'd make his bonus and walk away. And that's what kind of pisses me off. Like, so I knew he was going to be gone before Christmas. I thought he'd be closer like the week before Christmas. So this was a shock to me when I started writing this article and today about the Hornet. And I sat down and then Bloomberg pops up on my thing saying, he's gone. He's stepping down. So do I think the board members forced call? Definitely. Definitely. Have you seen Stellantis stock? The shareholders are absolutely pissed. Like, look at it. It's up a little bit, but I'm going to show you the stock, and you're going to be like, holy crap. So their stock right now is at $13.20 a share. Okay? I'm going to show you something really funny. If we go back to 1 year, look where it was. Come on. Look where it was on March 18th. It was at $28.48 a share. It's lost over half of its value in 8 months. 8 months. So, I mean, and the funny thing is that Stellantis has been buying its shares back. People don't realize that. It's been buying tons of shares back. But it still didn't do any good. Look at this. Look at, right after they announced their, this would be right after they announced their second quarter, or their first quarter stuff. Look at it. It just fell off the map. Just fell off the map. Look at this cliff right here in October when they reported their third quarter sales. Look at this. It went from $16 down to $13, and it hasn't recovered since. So that right there is enough to piss off a lot of people, including John Elkann, whose family owns the most shares in Stellantis, to find something else. So find somebody else. I mean, it's crazy. If you look at the 5-year, okay. So here's when the company really started, right? Kicked off. Look at picks up. Look at this tidal wave it rode. Everybody thought, oh man, it's going to be great. We're going to have a great year this year. This year was the highest it was. Closed at $29.18, and now it's at $13.20. People don't last for that long. Like, people don't want somebody to stay in power. If it was a normal person, like you or me, we would have been gone right off the bat. Why he's still in the position in that company for so long, have not a clue. Not a clue. So, did Carlos do anything good? He had to do... Did he do anything good? He did way more negative. I would say he pushed certain technologies. I've seen, if you go to the U.S. Patent Office, there's a lot of really cool advancements in electric vehicle technology from Stellantis. But other than that, I think he was too good to be true from what people thought. When he was at Renault, he did the same thing. He cut everything. Renault was on the urge of bankruptcy, and he cut everything, and he became a savior there. And I think that's why people liked him so much here was, hey, he was showing the stockholders record profits every time. Stellantis had $9 billion in cash on hand last year. $9 billion. Just sitting there in cash. And that was because they cut everything. But the problem is when no one's buying this year, yeah, that it doesn't do you any good. Why on earth did they not change course like GM on the EVs? Not a clue. I think so. Here's the problem that I seen as an automotive journalist. So you had Ford, Jim Farley, and you had Bill Ford come out at their investor meeting and say, "Hey, we screwed up, and we're going to continue to build the Mustang V8s, and we're going to still build electric cars, and we're going to build stuff that's an option for everybody, hybrids, everything. But we're going to focus more on hybrids. We're not going to focus all on electric vehicles, but we're going to focus more on hybrids because that's what people want." And GM announced, like, hey, we're going to spend $1 billion on building another small block generation of small block V8. And we're also going to, like, they started building all these EVs, and you've seen the prices. I ordered a Silverado EV. Why? Because I was going to flip it. My base model work truck was $82,000 when it came in. And originally it was supposed to be $40,000. It went up that much in development costs, like when they were developing it. They originally said, hey, $40,000 for a work truck. When mine came into the dealer, which I didn't buy, obviously, was $82,000 on the sticker. It was nuts. I wasn't going to buy that piece of junk. It was a work truck. It didn't even have the midgate system or nothing. I wasn't going to buy it. I got a lot of flack on here, too, saying, like, oh, yeah, well, that's how much you pay for to have one of the early work trucks. No, that's not what I signed up for. The problem was they say one price and go to another. People aren't buying EVs like they should. And the problem is once all these incentives go away, people won't be buying EVs anymore. Trump has already been against publicly saying, hey, I'm against these EV mandates and all these EV incentives. And like I said, Canada, Justin Trudeau is on his way out. Like, it's well known. If you look at any of the like, I love watching US and Canadian politics. That's like one of my quirks. Justin Trudeau, if you look at how much the Liberal Party is going to lose, they're not even going to be the second, like the party of the opposition. They're going to be like probably fourth in the lineup behind the Bloc and the NDP. So if you look at the numbers, Pierre Poilievre, who's leader of the opposition, who's on course to be the new Prime Minister of Canada, he's just like Trump. He is against all this stuff. He doesn't want them to have EV mandates, and he doesn't want like all these rebates put on the hoods of these vehicles. So once that's done, we're going to see a huge shift back. And I don't understand why we can't see, like, for example, this Hornet out here that I have, the powertrain in it's super great. Like, I love the electric motors with the 1.3 in it. I think it's got total balls for being what it is. I mean, it's 283 horsepower. It's plenty good for the little vehicle that size. I don't understand why it can't be, instead of plug-in, just hybrid. It could be a hybrid and make the cost a lot cheaper. Forget the plug-in part. Make it a hybrid. the new Charger. Why can't they put like the frunk is about useless in this thing. You can't put a racing helmet in it. You can probably put some of your car show detailing kit stuff in there. So why can't they take that and put like a small 1 liter naturally aspirated 3-cylinder engine from Brazil in it and run it as a generator and have the car have unlimited range and make it cheaper because it would have a much smaller battery pack. You still get the benefits of all the electric power. I'm just saying, there's lots of different ways you could go about this stuff. So, hopefully, it's very true. Let's see here. This woke POS Carlos Tavares is the only man in history that took a 13-plus brands and ran them straight in the dirt. Yeah, you're not that far off on that one. That's true. Is it not true European politics are also bears responsibility for the crisis? Yeah, no. Honest to God, if you look at the European market, I've wrote this several times on Mopar Insiders. If you go on them and look at the European market, there's a big pushback. Like, for example, Mercedes, right? You have Mercedes, Volkswagen, all of them make EVs, but their EVs aren't popular. They're not huge sellers. They have to offer them to meet certain markets. And Germany has said, hey, we don't want to have the mandates. Italy has said, we don't want to have the mandates from the EU. Like all this European Union stuff, where they said, hey, we're going to go into the same mandates and stuff as each other. There are certain countries that don't want to have anything to do with those mandates. So if they push away from those, they're going to look like, for example, Italy has already said, we're not doing the EV thing. They're going to look at, they have a better infrastructure than us too. That's the funny part. If they push away from it, they're looking at more hybrid stuff. And the reason why is cost. EVs are so expensive. What I don't understand, and you guys can kind of, help me with this, does anybody remember back in the early 2000s? All right, I went to the Detroit Auto Show. Everything was about hydrogen or CNG, compressed natural gas, and that was going to be the next technology, was hydrogen. And now, then they pressed plugins, and Stellantis actually does really good in plugins. Like Chrysler Group does really good. They have the best-selling plugin with the Wrangler. They have the second best-selling plugin with the Grand Cherokee. They don't have the third. The Hornet, believe it or not, the one I'm driving out there is the fourth best-selling plug-in right now, and the Pacifica Hybrid's the fifth. You never see a commercial about that. You never see a commercial about them boasting, hey, we build the best plugins. Nope. But the problem is like you see all these people that want EVs, or not EVs, but plugins, or not plugins. God, I'm screwing up because I'm thinking about four different things. You're seeing all these people that want hybrids, and that's because they're cheaper. The economy sucks not only here in the U.S., but ever since the pandemic, it sucks in Europe too. So, yeah, people can't afford huge amounts of money for vehicles. Over there, it's even harder because you had all these congestion taxes and everything else. And that's the kind of crap that California's trying to put forth. Will we need EVs? Yeah, we certainly do. I think there's a place for the Charger Daytona. I think it's a great car. I can't wait to drive one. I got a buddy who's a brand market manager for Dodge who has a red one right now, and he's like, I seen it at the one car event, and I was talking to him online, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to talk to Dodge about getting, letting you get your hands on this car, being one of the first, because he's like, this is the kind of car that we want people to see, like how good it is compared to like the gas powered one. That's fine. But for me, I don't drive a lot during the day. I go for long weekend drives, and my in-laws and my parents live far away from me. So I do need a vehicle with distance, and I have kids. So I got 2 teenagers. So EVs are they don't want to stop. Like if I had to stop and recharge the car for a couple hours every few hundred miles, my kids would be super pissed because they're so impatient. So, but I think that, Europe is on the same path. I think the whole woke thing and green technology and stuff, like the Green New Deal stuff is coming to an end in both Europe and here. I think that there's ways that if they would continue regulations, pull regulations back, but make them more realistic. Put pressure on countries like China, who pollute the hell out of the earth, instead of making us, like Europeans and us, take the grunt for it. Why should we get better when we should be policing them? It doesn't make any sense. Do you? Let's see. The politics need to tell what they want. Every 5 years, and that's true. That's the reason why I'm like, hey, even if Trump's elected, okay, and I've made it no secret, I get a lot of grief because a lot of people in the industry, the auto industry here in Detroit, are Democrats. I'm not. I'm not even a Republican anymore. With how the Republicans treated Trump, I denounced my Republican votership. I've never voted for any Democrat except for one ever, but I consider myself not even an independent. I consider myself a libertarian. So at least the amount of government possible is better. But with that being said, I think they've even said, like, Gavin Newsom, who's a huge Democrat. He's all about this stuff. He just put in effect that by 2027, all automakers have to put in like a tattletale box in your car, so when you're speeding, it will tell you when you're speeding and will limit the speed that your car can go. Like, you can go 5 miles over the speed limit, and that's it. So, like, he's gonna keep on with the CAFE, the California Air Resource Board stuff, the regulations. He's gonna continue with that. Are we going to see that in Michigan? No, because we're not a CARB state. So we can go and drive our V8 powered cars or whatever, inline 6, 700 horsepower inline 6 cars. Out in California, the people that choose to live out there, they're going to have to drive electric vehicles. He doesn't have to follow the mandate that Trump puts in place. The whole point of Trump is we're putting this power back into the states. So if your state, like Maryland, wants to be a CARB state and continue on, then the Charger Daytona is a perfect car for you. If you live in, like I said, let's say Ohio, which is a very red state, you're not going to opt for an EV more than likely. Yeah, some people love EVs. I got a bunch of people. I got a guy who lives right next door to me, like a house down, that's got a Tesla Model 3. He loves it. He doesn't have a garage. He's got his Charger hanging on a wooden fence post next to his house. But he loves his Model 3, and people are going to still buy this stuff. Is it for diehard car people? No. But that's what it is. What I was saying is, so you got your plugins and stuff, but, the government originally said hydrogen. Then they said, we're going to do hybrids. Then it was plug-ins, and then all of a sudden, like within the last 4 years, it's like we're skipping plug-ins and we have to go all EV. Well, now that's changing. So, hydrogen's the way to go. Yeah, like hydrogen engines, need too much energy. That's true, but as technology goes forth, who says it can't be now? Like Ram's working on a hydrogen truck right now for heavy duty. Cummins, it's gonna have probably a Cummins hydrogen engine, a 6.7 in it. What they call the 6.7H. Yeah, but I see like hydrogen and stuff. Why not work on technologies that, it's expensive now, but it can work in the future? Like, there's always moisture in the air. You can pull that out. Develop cheaper ways. Look how we've come with electric vehicles, just in technology in the last few years. Why not work on other things that are more appealing to people? So, anyways, I'm going to get going. I got to go finish shooting my video. It's getting dark here in Detroit. I got to go shoot the rest of my video because Dodge is actually coming to get the Hornet tomorrow. So I want to get that shot and done. I also have to go start the 300 out in the garage because it's bitter cold and I haven't started it in a week. So thanks for coming and talking. And this is all good news for us Mopar fans that Tavares is out. Hopefully we can get somebody in and get the company changed. I mean, I would love to see Manley come back and work on issues in the company. So Yeah, and like I said, I'm gonna post this. I'm gonna post an overall video later about this. So, other than that, take and have a great rest of your weekend.